heavy rain impacting much of the country, especially the top of the South Island. Let's get to it. We're looking at Thursday morning. We are recording this, by the way, Wednesday afternoon. And here we are Thursday morning, just before 7. You can see a slew of rain impacting the west of the South Island. You'll also notice this conveyor belt of moisture stretching from the subtropics into the top of the South Island. This right here is this river of rainfall that will be impacting the western and especially the top of the South Island as we work our way through the day on Thursday and even into Friday. When I play this through, you can see how a lot of those colors, especially the pink and the purple here, this is where the heaviest rain is going to be focused on. The Tasman Ranges, our friends at MetService, have severe weather warnings, heavy rainfall warnings for the top of the South Island at the moment for the Tasman area, but I wouldn't be surprised if that got extended farther east toward the Nelson and Richmond area. In fact, as we push this through, you can see how heavy rain, that band of rain, there it is forecast to continue to impact the top of the South Island. So while heavy rain will occur Wednesday night and Thursday morning for the west of the South Island, that'll shift north and focus chiefly in the top of the South Island for much of the day on Thursday and into Thursday night. And just a different way of looking at this, what we can do is show you the expected rainfall totals by way of a nice little graphic here. We're using bars to indicate rainfall total and color, of course, but the taller the bar, the more rainfall that is forecast. And you can see as we play this through, these bands of rain that'll be spiraling into the west and top of the South Island. And some areas are going to see more than a month's worth of rain occurring in just a day or so. For example, and going back to this image right here, for example, many areas of the top of the South Island, for example, Nelson, 100 millimeters of rain. That is your typical normal rainfall. It's very likely Nelson will approach, in fact, exceed that over the course of a day, maybe a day and a half. So we have to concern ourselves with flooding for the top of the South Island. We had a very heavy rainfall event, if you recall, back in early April before Easter. I think it was the 2nd to the 4th of April, where there was some significant rainfall for the top of the South Island. Difference here, the ground is quite, well, moist. It was a very dry ground in early April, so that rain was able to be absorbed. However, the ground is now wet, certainly not dry anyway, and that may be a difference maker in terms of how the water behaves when it does hit the ground. And that rain will persist all the way into Friday. Now, we'll have to see if this band of rain, the big question as I zoom out is there's a high. You can kind of see it off screen here. The data cuts off. Is that going to be strong enough to keep this band of rain from moving too far east at a steady rate? In other words, if this band of rain slows down, there could be heavier falls. However, if it's more progressive or more steady in the way it moves, that means those rainfall totals may not get so high. I do think areas across the ranges, the Richmond Ranges, the Tasman Ranges, 200-300 millimeters or more of rain is likely in these higher elevations. In fact, we can show you a different perspective to show you exactly where those heavier falls may occur. And you can plainly see, as we put this through, areas around Nelson, particularly the Richmond Ranges and over the Tasman Ranges, that is where the heaviest rain is going to occur. Blenheim, for example, your normal rainfall in Blenheim for the month of June is 75 millimeters, and that could be equaled. So again, when we're talking about a month's worth of rain or more squeezed into a day or two, that is when you could really run into problems in terms of flooding. Another facet to this will be the wind. There's going to be some pretty strong wind. What I might do is go to a high-res model here and just back things up, and you can plainly see a strong this is pretty incredible. Look at these wind gusts. Now, granted, these are over higher elevations of the Southern Alps. I'll just play this through, back it up a little bit. And there's a lot of wind energy. There's what we call a low-level jet. That is strong wind at low levels of the atmosphere, about 1,000, maybe 2,000 meters above the ground. And you can see that rain band, how there'll be some really strong wind associated with that rain band, initially affecting Fiordland National Park and also over toward the higher terrain, the national parks across the central portion of the South Island at higher elevation. And that rain band associated with that is the stronger wind. So expect some strong winds. In fact, going toward the Nelson area, here we are midday on Thursday. Look, there's going to be a period of pretty strong wind potentially midday Thursday in Nelson, and these are where wind gusts could approach 100 Ks for a brief period of time for elevated and coastal areas in and around Nelson. So just keep that in mind if you have travel plans, or obviously if you live in this area. That band of heavy or strong wind, I should say, will move east. So the wind may not last terribly long, the strongest wind, but it could blow quite heavily or quite intensely for a couple of hours, a little bit either side of midday on Thursday. One thing we also need to mention are other parts of the country that'll be impacted. While the top of the South Island is certainly in focus for heavy rainfall, and even the western of the South Island, other parts will get heavy rain, and that includes the Taranaki region. So here we are, it's Friday morning, 7 o'clock, going to work and school. Could be some heavy rain over toward New Plymouth, over toward Hawita, also over toward maybe Blenheim still, maybe Nelson still. And then as we push into the later part of the morning, there is forecast to be this thin area of very heavy rain stretching through the Auckland region into perhaps Hamilton, certainly the central and western Waikato. And then that band of rain moves east so that by early to mid-afternoon, areas like Tauranga, the Bay of Plenty, Central Plateau are impacted by this heavy rainfall. It won't last terribly long, just playing this through. But when it does rain, it will rain very hard for a few hours across much of the North Island, the western, central, and upper North Island. The timing of this may change. We'll see. Again, recording this Wednesday afternoon. It's very possible between now and Friday that maybe this band of rain happens a little bit sooner or happens a little bit later. So that's something we'll have to keep on top of. Of course, MetService, stay with them for any watches and warnings that may be issued. And there'll be gusty wind with that band of rain. Much like the South Island, where there is some strong wind gusts expected with this band of rain, much of the North Island will find pretty gusty north to northeast winds for Thursday afternoon and especially Thursday night into Friday morning. There'll be some thunderstorms as well, potentially Thursday night into Friday, and any of those thunderstorms may have some locally stronger wind gusts or heavier rainfall. So while there will be heavy rain for the North Island, I think it's the top of the South Island that has the greatest risk for rainfall that could create problems. I suppose parts of Taranaki, we are seeing a bit of a bullseye there. That's about the Munga. That's a rain magnet, the Munga, isn't it? And across the central portion of the North Island. Wellington, I haven't forgot about you. You will get heavy rain as well. We'll have to keep a sharp eye on that because if that rain band that's expected to impact the top of the South Island, if that maybe speeds up or slows down, that could have implications on the rainfall forecast for the lower North Island, including Wellington. But at the moment, your heaviest rain looks to be sometime around lunchtime on Friday, a couple hours either side of lunchtime on Friday. And there will be some really mild temperatures because our airflow is coming from the north. You can see much of the North Island in that yellow or orange, indicating temperatures that are unusually warm for the time of the year, 16, 17, 18 degrees, and the air will be moist. I mean, obviously with the rainfall, that makes sense, but we can trace this back to the subtropics. I mean, look at this flow of air coming in here from, I'm going to get rid of this, coming all the way from New Caledonia southbound. I mean, look at that. I'll back this up a little bit. And you can see how that flow of air is coming from the subtropics and tropics. That is why we are going to have heavy rain. Our air is coming from a very warm and moist location. And that is the fuel for the heavy rain. The low right here creates the lift. And that moisture from the subtropics and tropics, that is the fuel. So once again, we'll need to watch that. And just to kind of wrap things up, I do want to show you there is pretty good confidence we will see significant rainfall, and here's why. I'm going to disappear here, go full frame. This is an 18-member ensemble, and what we're looking at is, I'm going to back this up. This is predicted rainfall. We'll stop it at 6 a.m. on early Saturday morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And these are 18 different scenarios, and you can see all the scenarios looking at the top of the South Island have heavy rainfall. Now some, like this one right here I'm pointing to, the rainfall isn't as heavy. But the next one over, you can see this one here, this member or this outcome, if you look carefully, those ranges, you can see that's certainly 3, maybe 400 millimeters of rainfall about the ranges. So not all of them have the same amount, but you can clearly see there is certainly a theme that can be deduced from looking at the 18 different scenarios. And that theme is that either scenario you pick, it's going to rain quite a bit. It's just how much does it rain? And that's something that will become better understood as we work our way through time. So, if you got travel plans top of the South Island, or if you live in the top of the South Island from Tasman to Nelson to Blenheim, stay on top of the forecast, listen to the advice of any emergency management officials, and of course, stay on top of the watches and warnings from MetService. Heaviest rain likely to be across the top of the South Island sometime Thursday into Thursday night. And that may linger into Friday morning for areas like Marlborough and Blenheim. That heavy rain could persist into there until at least, say, Friday morning. 100 millimeters of rain is the June average for Nelson. 75 millimeters is the June normal for Blenheim. It looks like certainly for Nelson we are going to approach, if not exceed that, in just a day or two. And when we're talking a month or more worth of rain within a day or two, that's when you can get into problems. We'll see you next time. Stay safe. I'm NIWA forecaster Chris Brandolino. Namahi Nui.